again. Let's see if the camera comes back on. Anyways, I did fix the issue last night. It turns out the battery was just dead. For some reason, I didn't have the battery charged up real good. So anyways, that problem at least is fixed. So we'll wait for the camera to come back on, and we will continue the stream. Of course, while we're waiting, be sure to like the stream down below. not looking too fun. Definitely heat up. So that's going to be making its way into Mobile County here. It's going to make it onto the Dolphin Island. Probably for the most part, maybe the western part of the island gets hit a little bit, but this is probably going to miss at least like the eastern part of the island for the most part, at least the core of that storm. But it will be moving onshore, be running roughly up, 193, and into the probably over close to Brookley Airport, and maybe even coming over the causeway and onto the eastern shore here in probably about 30 minutes to an hour. But nonetheless, this is what you got going on. You've got multiple rounds, obviously, of thunderstorms. Pretty much no matter where you are, everybody's more or less going to get hit at some point with some thunder, some lightning, and some heavy rain. And it's really just throughout the night. This is going to continue as this system moves through. We also have some marine warnings getting issued, like the one we had last night. Now this one seems to have expired, but so this one was actually issued for just wind gusts 34 knots or 39 miles an hour or greater. So we're talking about wind gusts over tropical storm force. Now again, that has expired, but it just tells you kind of what we're dealing with here. Where we're not looking at a big wind or hail event here. It's just that you've got thunderstorms moving through it, and many of them, multiple repeated rounds of them, that are producing wind gusts topping 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. Potentially in some cases, as well as just producing frequent lightning and even some small hail at times. And that's just something that you don't want to be out in it. And you may even, if you're especially, don't go out and get yourself struck by lightning, but potentially you maybe even, if you have a garage, maybe you want to bring your vehicle indoors, or I should say in the garage, not indoors, but in the garage, so it's protected. Or if you don't have a garage, but you have maybe some large trees that can maybe shield your vehicle from some of that hail, you may want to employ some of those measures just to be on the safe side. You don't want to wake up the morning and have potentially some dents in your car, some dings. It's never a fun sight to wake up to if one of these stronger cells just happens to set up over your area. But nonetheless, so this is what we're dealing with. We're going to have storms move through, and it's not just down here at the coastline. It stretches well inland. In fact, probably even further inland than, and a lot of this too is being cut off by this is only as far north as the Mobile radar goes. You can click on Birmingham or Columbus Air Force Base's radars and see some more action up here, I'm sure. But you get the point that going through the night, much of the South is going to experience some wet and some stormy weather, and potentially even into the morning tomorrow as well. But this system is moving along at a pretty good speed. I mean, like I said, it was just moving into the Houston metro, those first bands this morning. And then now it's all the way down here, so it's moving along. Now I want to visit another topic that I wanted to make all of you aware of. This doesn't necessarily have the greatest impact on the continental United States, but I know some of you, we do have some international viewers here. They're outside of the continental United States or outside of the United States in general. And so we do actually have our first tropical depression in the Eastern Pacific, and you guys know that I'm a straight shooter when it comes to these. I don't if I think that the National Hurricane Center potentially is underestimating the intensity of a storm and that it has greater potential to strengthen than what they are giving it credit for, I will point that out. This one, I'm not really seeing it. Just from looking at a few basics a few basic factors, notably the sea surface temperature profile in the likely track of the storm. It's not really looking all that impressive, and it's not shocking. I'm not going to pull it up here just for time purposes, but you're generally looking at really a peak of around low 80s, very close to where the storm is, and that's where you see it. Briefly, probably will become Tropical Storm Alvin, but it's going to quickly fizzle out, and you see already by the time it gets to the southern tip of Baja California, places like Cabo San Lucas, as well as some of these regions of coastal western Mexico, at least the mainland of Mexico, I should say. It's really pretty much fizzled out. It's become post-tropical, and I honestly would be shocked. I would be shocked if it makes it this far. I think there's a good chance it even becomes post-tropical, extratropical, somewhere down here, and maybe briefly re-strengthens as you get that warm, Gulf of California current or I should just Gulf of California waters, sort of shielded from the California current that runs down runs down the other side here of the California Peninsula. But generally speaking, this thing is not going to be any kind of major history maker of a storm. We're not talking about another Hurricane Odile here or anything like that. So it's just going to pretty much spin up and die is all it's really going to do, more than likely at least, assuming it does follow this track and we don't have some explosion of growth somewhere, which again, looking unlikely. Now, I do want to pull this up. So this is courtesy of Tropical Tidbits, and I meant to actually get this pulled up earlier. Sorry about that. Bear with me here. So let me pull up the Eastern Pacific panel. So this is just the GFS, and this just gives us a general idea of what's going on. It's not. I'm going to use a slightly earlier run because this one's still coming in, but it just gives us a general idea of what's going on here. Of course, here you have what is likely to become Tropical Storm Alvin. That's Tropical Depression 1 right there, and it makes its journey. And you can see where it like I said, it's pretty much gone by the time it makes its way onshore of western Mexico. It's pretty much gone, and that's likely, it's definitely attributable to the colder waters. Again, remember it's only May still, and it's that cold ocean current. It's very active, and it runs a very good ways down the California Peninsula, and even south of that southern tip. A lot of times it runs very far south of that southern tip this time of the year. It's we're not talking about September, October, where it's a little bit later in the season. The waters warm up a little bit, and a lot of times that current doesn't quite make it that far south, and you can get storms that strengthen almost all the way up until they make landfall there in the southern tip, or crash into western Mexico or something like that. Notably Hurricane Odile back in, I think it was 2016 if I'm not mistaken. Either 2015 or 2016, I can't remember exactly. I just remember the storm and roughly what it did to Cabo San Lucas. But nonetheless, this is not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with the storm that's going to quickly spin up and fizzle out. Now, I want to take us forward in time because there is something else that the GFS has been picking up on, and that's the development of this other storm here. And we're looking at potentially a much stronger storm. Now, again, this frame right here is 216 hours in advance, and you definitely got to take this with a grain of salt. So nobody take a screenshot of this and go run with it and say, oh, this is going to be some catastrophic storm. No, that's not the case. Okay, not necessarily, at least. It could be, but the whole point of this is just to get a general sense of what's going on. Now this model here, this model run here has it tracking a little farther west and roughly parallel to the coast of Mexico. I have seen some earlier runs of the GFS that had it crashing into the into southern Mexico, and then potentially even the remnants crossing into the Gulf of America, that is. And potentially you could see the redevelopment of it if it were to do such a thing. You also see some other little spin-ups here as well. So it's definitely, and this is actually that looks kind of interesting. I did not see that before. That was not the case on some of those earlier runs. But you can see, and again, take this with a grain of salt. This is 348 hours out. Just for reference, we're talking about, we are over, let me just do some mental math here. We're talking about, at this point, we're talking about 2 weeks in advance from right now. This is June 12th. Okay, so nobody run with this and say, oh, we're going to have this massive storm in the Gulf, because that's not necessarily the case. Okay, one model run earlier, this entire feature here was non-existent. Okay, so don't run with this. This is just to give everyone an idea of the kinds of things that we could potentially start to see, and just a reminder that we are about to enter hurricane season. We've already entered hurricane season in the Eastern Pacific. We already have our first closed core storm that has developed, or closed off low that has developed into a depression in the Eastern Pacific. And then, of course, the hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin begins in just over 72 hours. Okay, so these are the kinds of things that potentially could start to happen. Okay, not saying that we will have a 977 millibar hurricane make landfall at the U.S. Mexico border there at Brownsville, but these are the kinds of things that you want to make sure that you have a plan for when they do happen, or if they do happen. You want to make sure now's the time to go ahead, get those home improvement projects done. Of course, go ahead and use the link in the description for Ace Hardware to go get it done, or even, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I have one for Home Depot as well that I need to post in the description so you guys can go use it. But shameless plug there aside, just make sure you've got your hurricane preparedness kit ready if you live in a hurricane-prone area. If you live near the coastline, make sure that you just some basic things. Have a flashlight. Have some cash on hand. I don't mean you have a checkbook or a debit card ready. I mean actual physical paper dollars. Okay, make sure you have physical cash on hand, because you don't know when an ATM could be working, or the power could be out at the bank, or just banks could be, the bank itself could be completely destroyed by the storm. You don't want to be dependent on your bank. Self-sufficiency gets you a long way in times of a natural disaster, and that's what you want to think. You want to just think basic things. Okay, food, water, some cash. Maybe even a little bit of you may even want to get some gas cans. Have some gasoline stored in some gas cans, and if you need to, instead of having to wait in long lines at the gas pump during a hurricane evacuation, okay, you just load up your tank and go. Okay, just little things like that can go a long way in any kind of evacuation situation, or just the disaster itself. So you want to make sure that you are prepared. But nonetheless, all that aside, let's take another look at what we're dealing with here. So again, no more. I don't think no more. Excuse my bad English there. We don't really see any more warnings being issued. Of course, there was that that yellow outline there of the warning that has expired, and we'll probably start to see this slowly wind down. You really don't see too much lightning occurring, with the exception of some of these cells on the sort of the northern flank of this whole system itself. But much of this is largely just stratiform precipitation that is fizzling out. Most of the thunder and lightning is occurring near the immediate coastline. That whether that's extreme southeastern Louisiana, talking about coastal Mississippi, Gulfport, Biloxi area, as well as stretching over here to Mobile and Pensacola. And this will shift its way east, but it's going to continue to sort of weaken in nature. Nonetheless, it's going to dump some rain. Going to see some thunder and light, or hear some thunder, see some lightning, I should say. But that's pretty much the story. We're looking at sub-severe thunderstorms just rolling through. Just make sure that you're inside, indoors. There's really no reason to be outdoors this late at night anyways. So just, hunker down. Try not to have to do the same thing with my pets here. Just keep an eye on things, keep an eye on the radar, especially if you gotta let your doggo out at, to go to the bathroom late at night or whatever. Early or even early morning tomorrow. This has the potential to still be going on in places. Just keep an eye on things. You don't want pets exposed to the elements either. But with that being said, I think we will go ahead and wrap this live stream up. I hope all of you enjoyed and found this informative. I want to make this a regular thing. I really do. And I thank you all for your support. We got pretty good support, I think, on the last one, given how some of the other streams had went before that. So just please continue to tune in. I appreciate it. And of course, check out those links in the description of the video. Do all your shopping using those links. So make sure that in addition to instead of just going shopping and all your money, you go shopping and you pay the money and that's it. You could actually be supporting the channel while you do it, while you shop for just those everyday things that you're going to buy anyways. So go ahead and do that. Use those links in the description of the video. And with that, I am out of here, folks. Again, please like and subscribe if you have not done so. Share this stream with your friends. Share the channel with your friends and your family. Let them know about us over here. And with that, everyone, have a good night, and I will see you on the next stream or video.